Glasgow Yes Sessions, and it's all about live and touring right now. We're joined by Darren James Thomas, the founder director at Family Agency, and he is right in front of me right now. Hello, Darren.
Hello, Phil.
What's the crack? How are you doing today? You well?
All good, all good. Enjoying a little bit of sunshine here today in Brighton.
So you're here to educate us on live and touring, and that means basically anything, any gig that you can go to, any DJ set that you can go to. If they have an agent or if they go out and play a gig, you're the guy that looks after them, right?
Yep, yeah. We kind of handle everything from the booking of the shows, the tour management, the routing, through to the logistics at the end. But yeah, we get the bands and the DJs into the clubs and into the venues.
What's to stop them doing it themselves? Why have an agent? Why can't they just pick up the phone to like a venue and just go, I want to play a show in the O2 Arena?
Maybe the O2 Arena is a little bit of a jump too far, but I mean, from I guess as the band starts up, kind of early days, they might play in their local pubs and they might be able to do the bookings themselves. Build a network in the local scene. But I think kind of as a long term, you're kind of wanting to be reaching out to the wider network of promoters, national promoters, or even still local promoters in other cities outside of their hometown. And I think the reason an agent's kind of healthy for them in the first place is they're able to help with those, sort of navigate those conversations. There's a legacy. There's a what's the word I'm looking for? There's a relationship with the promoters, between the promoters and the agents. So there's an element of respect and the way that we've put artists forward that we feel are correct and right with the certain promoters that we're discussing with. So they kind of tailor each tour to each promoter with each artist and which sound they're which genre of music they're in.
So when you see those like big tour posters from your like favorite bands and it has like about 30 dates on it, like, are you the guy that's standing in like an office with the people that you work with, like putting pins in a map like it's some sort of like crime?
The starting point is for a tour is I'll go, say we want to go and do a 10-date tour and we pick out the 10 cities, but preferably we'd like to play Brighton, Manchester, Bristol, London, Leeds. And you kind of start to map it in your head. And in an ideal world, you want it to route through. You potentially want to route up through one side of the country and come back down the other. You're not always lucky because obviously the venues that you want to play aren't always available. But in general, you kind of route a tour around the country the best way forward. I won't go into Brexit and what that's kind of done for us when it comes to touring UK artists in Europe at the moment, but it's a little bit more of a nightmare. But in a similar sort of sense, in an old-fashioned way, you would usually just route the best possible if you can kind of jump in a van and kind of travel around Europe, which, like I said, a little left unknown at the moment because no one really knows what's happening there with visas and cabotage. But yes, so in a way, I am that man in the office on the phone, but it's more in my head than it is maybe on a map.
I don't want to get into that spaghetti junction that is your brain with all of those artists like crossing wires across the country. One of the questions that's come in is asking how much do they cost? Now, I mean, like, you don't pay an agent directly, but you do take a percentage, right?
Yes, we do.
How does that work?
So basically the percentage is kind of taken from like as an overall commission base. So say just say for an example, just using on flat fees, say it was a festival show for £1,000 for an artist, the agent would generally take a 10% commission from that, so it'd be 900 for the artist and then 100 for the agent. There's a thing called a versus deal on live shows, so quite regularly in early touring days, bands will get £350, £250 on a versus deal versus 80%. And the splits are, you get £250 is the basic for the artist. And then 80% of the door after the promoter breaks even on the door ticket sales. So then usually the agency will take 10% on the gross of that. So say potentially the walkout might be £375 from the 250 basic. And then the agent takes £37.50.
Right. Okay.
That's explain how we work, but there's different ways for different agencies.
Yeah, that's kind of like industry standard. It's in and around that ballpark, really, isn't it? Are live agents actively signing new or emerging acts, or is there a right time for agents to jump on board? Basically, are you going out and searching for it, or are you waiting?
Both. There's kind of an element of there's definitely always searching for something new. Always, you always want to have the next new band breakthrough. I mean, one of the most exciting things is breaking new talent at the end of the day. So well and good working with artists once they're established, and it's great taking artists to the next level, but kind of breaking a new artist through, you know, that first festival that you get a band that they've ever played, it's, you know, it's the band are obviously super excited, but, you know, as an agent, I still get excited by that process.
One of the questions that we get asked so much by new and emerging acts is the support slot. What is the best way for an unsigned band or somebody who doesn't have an agent to get a support slot with a band that's bigger or touring through?
So I would probably, I'm assuming this is probably more geared towards just like local support to the local town, local city, rather than overarching main tour support for, like you say, you see on the gig tour posters, tour support. That usually comes via agency management and a preference to who they want to put on there. But for local tour supports, I think the best way foot forward would be to work with the local promoters that are in the community. You know, do your research. Also, make sure when you do your research to make sure your sound is fitting with the other shows that promoter is booking. Don't be a DJ, techno producer or something, and then go and email someone about a booking with someone that only books like rock shows. I mean, that's quite a flippant kind of way of putting it, but people do sort of email things that don't really make sense. But yeah, so with regards to local sports, start doing, you know, talk to the local promoters, kind of get in there, send the music, don't hound them too much. Don't get really annoyed with you if you hound them too much, but don't be too needy.
Yeah, you have to hound a little bit, but you have to hound.
There's a little bit of a buffer on how much you do and don't. Don't be emailing them every day of the week, basically. You know, usually leave a couple of weeks between messages. It's always really nice to update them with a new bit of content, a new bit of whether you've had a track played on the radio or a little bit of news in the local paper, or you know, you just finished a new song and you want to send a new demo over, like, you know, those sort of things. But also keep the email short and sweet. Don't write a 3-page essay, and they won't read it.
Yeah, what that I was going to say the exact same thing. Like, just keep the emails very short.
Yeah, short and sweet. Best.
Sort of following on from that, festivals. Like, if you're an act that's starting out, is it possible to play bigger festivals?
There's sometimes stages on the bigger festivals, things like BBC Introducing, you'll be aware of. I mean, obviously that comes through the BBC networks. And just with those ones, obviously, if you're not aware of it, you'd usually apply via your local county, BBC Introducing, and then that can sometimes push on to BBC Introducing UK, and then, you know, you never know if you can get slots on festivals. Obviously that tours around from Glastonbury through to Latitude and all kinds of festivals. And then I guess you're kind of going to be more likely to sort of look at things once again, probably look at those that are in your county or in the surrounding area, or maybe, for example, you might have been getting a lot of play up in, you know, Newcastle on the radio. If you say you were getting 10, 15 plays a week on a local radio student station in Newcastle, you're more inclined to potentially talk to people there about going and playing something. You know, you'll be able to get that data and kind of hit the promoters with those little bits and pieces. Always pick up kind of those random places. I've had artists that are huge in Switzerland from the UK, and we, you know, they're on, I didn't know, but they had like 90 plays on an A-list over the course of a month from one of their tracks, and we went over, and their first show was headlining a festival. So there's those kind of really random sort of places that just kind of use the data to your advantage, really.
Any advice on how bands should prepare to play live music again, and maybe even travel with live music and tour with live music now that we're sort of coming out the back of COVID and Brexit? Like, it does seem like quite a very difficult task. Like,
I know, you know, even for mental health, really, I've got artists struggling to kind of feel like how they're going to want to get back on the road after a year just being knocked up indoors, and for various reasons. It's been a tough year for all of us. Musicians as well. Yeah, I mean, just for me, I've told most of my artists that are a little bit struggling to kind of just get back and get in the studio and rehearse, kind of feel comfortable in yourselves. And then even for some of the slightly bigger bands, if they want to come back and play small shows, you know, even with DJs. I had an artist that his first show back was going to be to 3,000 people in San Francisco. he's a little bit terrified, so has asked if he can go and play. Can I go and play a 200 cap club locally somewhere, please? Just that kind of like overwhelming sensation of going and being in front of 3,000 people again felt a little bit terrified. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like coming out of prison and going directly into a festival. It's like going, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
Well, Darren, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. If anybody wants to send you music, can they do that? Can they do so?
They're more than welcome. They're more than welcome. They can find the agency website.
There you go.
Thanks. Cheers, Phil.